I put a bounty on an average juice bottle. I guess a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people joined in on it.
Hell yeah.
And then I killed him, and I got, like, extra money out of it. Because I said it, and then other people joined in on it. It's like an investment, bro. It was literally crypto. I bought in, and I got more out of it.
That's crazy.
So as you guys can see, there's this top bounties board, and then there's a server bounties board. Now, the server bounties board is empty because I'm the only one in the server, and no one in my server has a bounty on them. And if we look at the actual patch notes, it says, in space, you can talk to an NPC named Hunter. He's not named Hunter, that's a lie. He will allow you to place a bounty on someone. There are leaderboards on all the main maps, so this is where the leaderboard is on Earth. It's in this little tunnel. It can be done on anyone. Server-wide, you have to type case-sensitive for it to work, so you have to type the name exactly, the Roblox username. And then you set your own Zenny amount, and it uses your own Zenny. And if anyone adds on to your bounty, you know, the bounty will go up. So, like, if I put, like, 10k Zenny on someone and Gray puts 10k on someone, it'll be one bounty with 20k on it. So the payout will go up and up and up. And then you cannot claim or lose bounty if you are under level 300 because you get space at 300. So that's space is kind of how you unlock this bounty system. And then whenever you kill someone with a bounty, they will lose 50% of their bounty and you will earn that as Zenny. So how it works is if someone has 1,000,000 Zenny as a bounty, if they die, they lose 50% of it, so it would go down to 500k, is that correct?
Correct, yeah. And it would just keep doing 50%.
Okay, so you're never really gonna lose, like, all your bounty unless you literally, like, die a lot of times and you get to, like, you know, 2 bounty and then you die and it goes to 1. I'd assume if you have 1 bounty and you die, it would go to 0 or something. I don't know. But I'd assume you wouldn't get half of a Zenny, but by then there's gonna be so many people on this bounty board that you're not gonna see the people with just 1. Right, so it's not really gonna matter. Is there gonna be a way to see how much bounty you have in your profile, maybe?
Eventually, yeah, we're probably gonna add on, like, more to this, just because, like, there's obviously so much more we could do with it. But yeah, we're thinking of ways so you could see your own bounty, protect your own bounty, maybe even, like, ways to, you know, do stuff with your bounty that make you a little bit stronger for being such a, you know,
oh, that's sick.
sought after target.
If you have bounty on, like, you can get, like, buffs or something, like a raid boss.
Yeah, that's an idea, but, like, obviously not confirming anything because we haven't fully decided on it. At the very minimum, I could definitely say yes that we're eventually going to make it so that you could see your own bounty, or, you know,
that's cool.
Maybe like an item that you could protect your bounty for a limited time. Just, you know, throwing those out there as more than likely. Anything else would be just theorizing or guessing anything.
Got you. So after you lose your bounty, you have a 2-hour, like, safe period. So if someone kills you, your bounty's not going to go down for 2 hours, which is pretty sweet. I'm going to go ahead and move to space so that way me and Gray can look at the bounty, like, Hunter and everything, and see how you actually set bounties. His name is not Hunter, bro. Yeah, I'm going to assume a lot of cheesers in ranked are going to go on this bounty board. In ranked, if you meet someone with a bounty and you beat them, and, like, you know, it's like their first ranked match, so, like, or, like, their cooldown isn't on, are you gonna claim their bounty?
I don't believe it's possible to do that in ranked.
Okay.
I actually haven't tested that. If it is a possibility, then, I mean, I think I'd probably keep it just because it kind of makes sense, you know, you're still
I would like that, yeah.
risking a fight.
There's a 1-hour cooldown from placing bounties on people?
Yeah, you can only place a cooldown every 1 hour on someone, that way people can't spam place bounties on people repeatedly for, like, hours on end.
Got you.
Prevents the system from being overloaded, and I think it's just better that way overall. If you try to set a bounty on someone and it's just not working, you either A, spelled their name wrong, or B, they haven't joined the game yet. If a player hasn't joined the game, since we added the bounty update, they don't have the data for bounty, which means that they can't have a bounty set on them.
Yeah.
The second they join the game, you're good.
Alright, so now let's go over the combat changes. So the first thing is the blocking cooldown. Now, I already know that some people are going to complain about this probably, but honestly, I kind of like it. When you block, there's a cooldown. Like, I'm spamming R, as you can see at the bottom right, my evasive stuff is lighting up, but only every 3 seconds can I actually perform a block. So this is going to prevent people in ranked just, like, kind of spamming R to try to hit a perfect block and get lucky. It's going to prevent that. So
yeah.
Like, I've PvP'd, like, very slightly since this update came out. This update didn't just come out. And in my testing, this has made me want to try to block more. I don't know how to explain it. Oh, Blaze's bounty went up by 2 million. Alright. Poor guy, bro.
It's not as bad as you think. You're in a fight. This is actually still pretty quick. We were even considering making it longer.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like in an actual match, like it's gonna be really rare for this to actually impact you. Where like you weren't trying to spam perfect block, like you were just like blocking and then you'd vanish and block again. Like very rarely is that even gonna affect you. Like it's really not that bad.
I would suggest before you make a an opinion on it, actually try it out for an hour or two and then make an opinion. Because like trust me, like this is one of those things where it sounds horrible, but it's not as bad as you realize.
The only thing that I can think about that this is like maybe bad is like if a guy's like hardcore key spamming you and like you see the blaster shell coming, you block it, and then you're kind of vulnerable for the next hit, like that kind of.
Yeah.
But I mean that's part of strategy, I suppose. Like melee users can kind of do the same thing, where they can do a rush move on you or like sling at you, and then they can just use a rush move or something.
Yeah. I mean, realistically speaking, as well as the fact that if you're a melee user, you could be doing the same thing with the stat changes. You can throw out key skills just to be utility, not just damage.
Yeah, that's one thing as well that I've been trying to tell people. It's like the stat thing, like key build, melee build, that's not really like as important anymore. Like it's still very important, and ranked made that very apparent that it's still very important because of the Friezas having like so much key damage that they just kind of 3-shot you or whatever. Like that was very apparent that like the stats do still matter. Damage still does matter. I was definitely underrating damage a little bit. At the same time, you see I only have 800 key damage. My key moves do pretty decent damage. Like if I'm in a match with someone, I knock someone away and I throw out a key move that does decent damage, that's gonna chunk their HP for sure. Like that's not nothing, it's. And I'm not saying you have to do key damage. Like, you can have 0 key damage, and your moves are still going to do damage because of how the stats work. Meaning, like, if you don't know what we're talking about, basically level matters more. And level's giving you more stat points than your actual stats. This 700 I have, this is contributing to almost half of my melee output, is this level 700. So that is contributing to literally almost half. And so it's contributing way more to my key damage than my key damage stat is. So that's just one thing to consider. Like key build, melee build. Just because you are a melee damage, stat build, doesn't mean you can't have a key move on your moveset. For sure, for utility. I recommend you do, because there's key moves that are very, very good utility. So that's the blocking. Combat speed has been increased heavily.
So for those of you who are old-time players, the movement and quote-unquote slingshotting feels more akin to like a 2020 slingshot. Essentially, overall, speed for combat has increased, and obviously that means your momentum will apply and everything. So fights should feel a little bit more dynamic and, fast-paced like how they were. However, there was a couple of changes that just made it overall more tolerable to fight against. And I'm going to kind of skip over you, Bobby, and talk about another fix, because I think it's necessary to explain the reason why we were able to speed it up.
Okay.
Slingshot itself isn't necessarily the problem per se. Obviously it has its problems, but the issue is the defense mechanic and how the defense bars work and how they're drained in combat. The reason why you sling and why you actually slingshot for any particular reason is to lower the opponent's defense bar to lead into a stamina break or a combo. That's kind of been the reason for slinging. Mm-hmm. Why it was broken was because you're able to kind of repeatedly do that motion without the opponent being able to fight back, because snap vanishing just wasn't effective. Thus, the change that added on to make it more possible is now that when you snap vanish, so if you were to snap vanish real quick for me, if I were to go back in and hit you immediately, I would not actually do any damage to you. You have iframes during that period, and you have a chance to counterattack.
Yeah.
If you're a smart player, you wouldn't immediately go right back in, but that's a plus side, because now you, as the person who just used an evasive to get out of that situation, you now have a chance to actually counterattack and do something different.
I see.
So, if I fumble from slinging, I lose that. If I'm smart about slinging, I give you the opportunity to fight back. So slinging is still very much viable because it lands that hit to lose that defense. However, the speed is there to compensate for that extra period in time where you have that phase of, how do I call it, iframe, where you can fight back. It's a little bit more complicated to explain, but you'll see it if we do some practice fights, how it can kind of play.
If we put it in motion, when I hit you and you vanish, there's a period of time after you vanish where you have like super armor, right?
No, iframes, so
Okay,
I can't
so
be
it's
hit
not
at all.
Super armor.
Like if you're punching, let's say you punch me during this period, I have the ability to punch you. Even though you punched me first, my punch will go through, and you will not hit me.
That's kind of like a super armor type thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's similar. The difference between super armor is the fact that super armor makes it so you can get hit, but not affected by like.
Yeah, you still take damage with super armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Complete iframe, you're basically immune. So do an LR on me. Now, I should have said do an LR and then do an LR again right after. You can do those really quickly now. Yeah, that's the speed I think. So you're able to chain combo with that, and it's applied to all fighting styles. So that means the fighting styles that had worse end lag than another no longer exist. All fighting styles now have equal end lag.
I feel like this change is just really good. I'm glad it's in the game now. I don't know why it wasn't before. And then to continue, so regular snap vanish cost increased stamina, so that's just pressing X. So that takes twice as much stamina as it used to. So defense snap vanish has increased iframes. That's what we spoke about already. But all Saiyan and Namek Saga moves have been greatly buffed. Future Saga skills have been slightly buffed. So basically, I feel like all the early game skills were so bad that there's just kind of no point in even using them. And now they're definitely like quite a bit better. The example I was using is Kamehameha does like 13k damage on my Saiyan. Keep in mind, I'm max level with some key damage stat. Like, what, 800 key damage? But it did 13k, and then Majin Kamehameha, which is like a really high damaging move, does 30k. Nerfed a couple of problematic skills, so this is your Curse Slashes, your Blaster Shell, you know, stuff like that. So did the, are there any other skills you want to point out? Like, I know Fake Blast got nerfed, which definitely needed it. Any of those evasives people were using offensively, I feel definitely needed to be nerfed. Because evasive is not an offensive measure.
Other nerfs, I'm trying to think. There wasn't anything like crazy nerfed. Like, if you knew something was doing crazy amounts of damage, it probably got nerfed.